Good evening, everyone. We are live at 5 o'clock Wednesday night. It's Gaz Meets, another episode on season 2 of the podcast. I want to start by announcing our brand new sponsor, 67 Tees. They are up in the corner. The clothing brand, they are all over the socials you want to get on. And they've got some great Kyogo stuff at the moment, and they're doing a really nice line in Diego Maradona stuff as well. So, as I say, get in touch with you guys. So thanks to them for sponsoring the podcast. So our podcast, obviously, Celtic FC Appreciation Show podcast. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you download your podcasts. Just click subscribe and follow, and leave us a wee comment or a review. Obviously, Celtic FC Appreciation page, we're over the 15,000 mark now on Facebook. If you want to keep searching and sharing the page and keep commenting and for all your daily content. We are also now on YouTube as well. Just search Celtic FC Appreciation for daily Celtic content and any missed podcast episodes. I'll be getting that uploaded as daily as possible. So tonight, live with Jordan Allison from Show Racism, the Red Card. It's a really kind of big topic at the moment with racism at the moment in sport as well. So, and Jordan, first of all, thanks for coming on. I know you're a busy man. If you want to just introduce yourself and what you do at Show Racism, the Red Card.
No, thank you for having me along, Gary, and giving me an opportunity to talk a wee bit more about the charity. It's a charity that has been quite visible throughout October in the world of football, but certainly throughout the rest of the year. We're an education charity in Scotland. We're one of Scotland's biggest anti-racism education charities, and that's what we do. That's our bread and butter. We work in schools. We work with young people using kind of positive football and role models to help us champion the messages of anti-racism and inclusion and tolerance, and just helping young people to be able to recognise racism in all its forms, to be able to safely challenge it in any environment, be it in school and the playground, online and in football environments as well, and how to support the victims of racism and be a real strong ally to those that sadly continue to experience racism. So we've been going for 25 years across the UK. This is our 25th anniversary. In Scotland, a wee bit less. I think we kind of launched in Scotland in 2003. But like I say, the most visible time that football supporters see Show Racism Red Card is definitely October, when we have that footballing month of action and we get footballers that take part in anti-racist action on the pitch. But we've seen particularly Celtic players as well, really going a wee bit further in helping us with anti-racist video resources and saying a few words on camera to young people, and not just throughout last month but throughout the year. So we really benefit from a strong relationship with football clubs, I would say.
Yeah, it's as I say, it's a great charity, and it has been going great guns recently. Obviously, I think it was it the Wear Red Day last month, just a few weeks ago. Did that go quite well?
Yeah, we're still actually, we're sitting here just at the start of November, but we're still counting the numbers of participation in Wear Red Day, just down to who turned up at school or who turned up at the workplace that day wearing something red to show racism, the red card. And we're sitting, I think we've got it's 220,000 people or something across the UK took part, which, if that's the case and it's confirmed, that will be our biggest year yet. It does two things. It helps schools and workplaces and sporting organisations raise awareness for the need to tackle racism, and it also helps raise funds for anti-racist charities like Show Racism the Red Card to provide that education work to young people across the UK as well. It's our only fundraising day of the year, so it is massive. So to have seen so many people turn out for it and take part has been amazing.
Yeah, and obviously anyone can get involved. I think if you go onto the website, you go onto theredcard.org, you can find out all about the charity and what you can do to help if anybody wants to get involved. Any questions or comments you guys have out there for Jordan, get them into us and we'll try and get through them. So, Jordan, obviously, you joined the Red Card guys in January 2019. Was your role specifically, obviously, you're a campaign manager, was your role specifically for that, or did you have to build up to that?
Slightly. I had to, I played at a very low level. I played junior football. I played at Albion Rovers for a bit as well, and I was always aware of the charity. And so I got in touch and just wanted to volunteer in any way that I could. I was studying marketing at the time, and I just wanted to be able to kind of use whatever I could do, however small, just to kind of help out the charity. Because I think once you find out what the charity does in the background, it does hit you that it's not just a gesture, it's not just a token campaign with people hold up T-shirts. It is going into schools, workplaces, even prisons, and helping to use football as that kind of positive, relatable way to just work with people and help them understand what racism looks like and how to tackle it. And I think the feeling I had was that, it's being done, but it could be done so much wider. It could be across Scotland, it could be across the UK, and I know we have a presence across the UK, but certainly we are calling for more support for charities like Show Racism Red Card to be delivering it in literally every school in Scotland, because that would only then are you able to kind of make a difference. So no, I volunteered for a bit, and then the opportunity came up, and I was lucky enough to be named campaign manager in the start of 2019, and slowly approaching my third year with the charity. It doesn't feel like 3 years with the COVID year, but it'll be 3 years. I'll be with the charity next month, I think.
Yeah, I think you mentioned obviously COVID year. I think everybody kind of missed a year out through one way or another. We obviously COVID and lockdowns and things like that. But obviously, I suppose describe a normal working week for yourself. What would a campaign manager primarily do for a charity like that?
So we're split into different regions in Show Racism Red Card. We've got a region based in the northeast of England. We've got the southern region. We've got the northwest. That's a fairly new region in England with Manchester, Liverpool, etc. We've got Wales, and we've got Scotland. So campaign manager in Scotland, I manage a team in Scotland of education workers. Primarily, we've got admin staff, admin and support staff, support workers as well. We've also got a kind of network of current and ex-professional footballing personalities that kind of come in and help us out, and just help to kind of surprise the young people with workshops, and have a kind of surprise Q&A at the end. Just it helps to reinforce that message that they've been learning throughout their programme, and it all comes back to football and footballers having such power over behavioural change that it's that's the reason that Show Racism Red Card has been working for 25 years and continues to kind of change attitudes using footballers. So a kind of working week, I would say, is primarily, I would say 80% is managing the school's programme, because the little funding that we get as a charity, it is targeted on how many young people you're working with, how many young people you're helping to equip them with the tools to challenge racism, and so organising that across, which is what is a huge region, is Scotland. So being able to organise that, and then we've got annual initiatives as well. We've got Wear Red Day, as you've mentioned, in the 22nd of October there. We've got the month of action that brings football together. We've got the annual creative competition that young people as young as primary one can take part in anti-racism and using their kind of creativity even at that age to showcase their messages of tolerance and inclusion. So we've got the annual initiatives, we've got the education work, and of course as well we've got what is a big responsibility for our charity is the campaigns work, and we are lobbying the Scottish Government to put anti-racism and Black history onto the national curriculum. We are lobbying the Scottish FA to increase their bans, to make meaningful bans for racist behaviour at football matches, and lobbying the Scottish FA for funding broadly for targeted work to improve inequalities in schools, because the Scottish FA have a responsibility for that too. So probably those kind of three main aspects of the job: the education work first and foremost, the annual initiatives that gets loads and loads of people involved, and the campaigns work.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned that that you're in your 25th year of the charity. It started back in the northeast. It actually started. I'm a massive Newcastle fan, and I'm kind of old enough to remember Shaka Hislop, the former goalkeeper, and he obviously, he was at a petrol station back in 1996. He was racially abused by a gang of youths, I think, and I think the story goes that when they realised who it was, they wanted to get his autograph after racially abusing him, which was incredible, obviously. But obviously I think he made a donation, which I don't know if it almost started it up. It's now the biggest anti-racism charity in the UK. What would you say, especially in your time, has been a factor in making it so big, and how much bigger can you make it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right to point out Shaka's story, where it all started. It's every time he tells that story, it really hits you, because these were young Newcastle fans that initially saw a black man at a petrol station and racially abused them, and then when they realised it was their hero, their idol, the goalkeeper at Newcastle at the time, for some reason it switched in their head, and he was more than just a black man. He was this footballing idol that could break down those barriers in an instant, which is it's an incredible story, and it really has kind of set up the charity. Even now, 25 years later, we're still using those footballing role models to break down barriers and just facilitate positive conversations. For me, the highlights, and certainly my time in Scotland, have been where we've seen real unity across the footballing world, across even the political world, to come together in a united stance against racism. So not too long ago, my mind goes back to that gesture of Scott Brown walking across the touchline towards Glen Kamara, just weeks after he'd been racially abused, and checking he was okay. And I think when I remember speaking to my colleagues in the different regions of Show Racism and Red Card, and they maybe didn't understand the significance of it. They knew what happened to Glenn. They knew that Scott Brown was the kind of opposition captain, but just given the environment up here that we all know about, for him to kind of cross that line, walk over, and first and foremost checking Glenn was okay, I think that was seen by millions across the UK, and that really helped instigate real positive conversations on tackling racism across Scotland. Not just from sports pundits, but I'm talking about in classrooms as well. They were talking about that for weeks and weeks to come, and it just made the job of charities like Show Racism and Red Card so much easier, because then we were able to have those positive discussions using what was probably kind of insignificant to Scott Brown at the time, but the impact that had, that small gesture, really did it set the stage for much more positive conversation. And we need more of that. We need more unity. We need more united condemnation of racist abuse in all its forms, whether it's on the pitch, whether it's out with the stadium, whether it's online, and we need us all, not just in football, but in wider society, to come together to say enough is enough, and that we need to get past this now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a massive gesture at the time, and I can remember not being surprised by it, but I suppose maybe with it being Derby Day and tensions are heightened, and you maybe weren't expecting them to do that, but it showed the world, I suppose, how to act and how to, that we do need to be united in this kind of fight against racism. So in terms of educational chats that you go to schools and colleges and offices, how do you grab people's attention? What's the most vital way to grab people's attentions, do you think?
I think the way that it probably works best for us is we do still use that football and role models as the way to instigate those conversations. So I think one of the barriers that other organisations or charities might find when having kind of sensitive discussions in the classroom is that it's great, they'll take some of it in, the young people take some of it in, but especially maybe if it comes from a teacher, it'll just be, right, okay, that's the lesson today. But having an external facilitator coming in, like a team member from Show Racism and Red Card, and talking about just relevant, relatable and exciting case studies, talking about footballers, showing clips of footballers talking about these issues that their teachers are having with them as well, just opens their eyes and opens their ears a wee bit more, especially when you get a footballer in the classroom with them. It's been a wee bit difficult, obviously, since COVID, but when you have like a Marvin Bartley, for example, who works a lot with us, come into the classroom, the young people have maybe seen him on TV, but there he is, he's talking to them about the same thing that the Show Racism and the Red Card team have been talking about bias, about breaking down stereotypes, racial stereotypes, wider equalities as well. And that really, you can see the young people, you only need to be there and actually see that they're mesmerised by the idea that footballers are having these conversations as well, and they're leading the way in those conversations. So footballers, they probably underestimate the power that they have in the classroom, and in talking about societal issues. And it'd be great if more actually spoke out as well, because the power that they have is just enormous, and we definitely see that in the classroom. So we'll continue to use football and sporting role models, because it opens their eyes and ears so much. It's great to see, and it helps us achieve our outcomes, which is fundamentally teaching them about how to challenge racism, how to safely challenge racism in each environment, and they're leaving the classroom equipped with those skill sets.
Yeah, I think in terms of, obviously you mentioned kids reactions, especially if it's a sports person or one of their favourite football players. I saw on one of your videos through YouTube that I was listening to Rio Ferdinand and Thierry Henry and things like that. I think that is a message when kids see that, and they think, if footballers are getting that message across, and it can become a bit more, they sit up and pay attention a wee bit more, kind of thing. Sports people have done the education videos for you, like Harry Kane, Harry Maguire, Ryan Giggs, Gareth Southgate. I mean, all of those guys, captains of a club, captains of a country. Do you think they have added responsibilities, I suppose, that they can become role models? They are role models, obviously, but you can't control what happens in terms of, you'll always get keyboard kibbards out there they'll still send abuse and hate through the web. But do you think they can take more on as being role models to help out?
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I think the once footballers, especially at that level, you're talking like elite level, they have obviously so much going on in their lives, but if you've seen it with players like the players that you've mentioned that have helped us out with video resources, but even like Marcus Rashford and the amount he does like extra from what is obviously an intense lifestyle, being an elite footballer, and the lives that he's changed as well. I think if players are confident to do more, then the power that they have to actually achieve things is enormous, because so many people sit up and take notice. Not just young people as well, adults. That in Scotland, we football plays a massive part of our culture. So when you have a club captain, even just a player of one of our clubs that you're for example a diehard supporter of, you're going to sit up and take notice. Players, when we talked about, obviously since the murder of George Floyd, players have decided to take the knee before matches, and even with players and club captains, for example, actually setting out in black and white, this is why we are taking the knee. There's been so many videos that show Racism the Red Card have put together, and with players, just black players, telling an audience why they take the knee, what it means to them. And then they're telling the same players are coming back weeks later after the videos have went out and said, you know what, I could notice a difference, and there wasn't booing, or there wasn't as much booing maybe in England, for example. But the power that these players have, and the messaging that they want to get across is huge. And if they're comfortable talking about things, then obviously we would encourage that more than ever when it's on the agenda, when we are talking about anti-racism.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had Euro 2020 there that was delayed a year because of COVID. It was a great tournament. Unfortunately, Scotland couldn't get out of the group stage, but obviously a great result against England. England do get to the final against Italy, and they get beaten penalties. No, they had such a young team, and you would think that the fans would want to praise their youngsters and praise their heroes and give them a G up. But instead, they were, or rather, a section of them were racially abused. Online. Marcus Rashford's mural was defiled. Jadon Sancho and Bakary Saka at Arsenal were racially abused online. I mean, you can't. I suppose you can't attain for every single person. People are going to go online and they're going to type things in their bedroom and they think it's funny and they think it's. And I'm not saying it's okay when it's youngsters and they don't know any better, but these were guys in their 40s and 50s, and you're like, I mean, how demoralising is that for charities like yourself to see things like that happen?
Yeah, I mean, listen, first and foremost, the players that you said it, how young they were, and we've got staff, volunteers, ambassadors. I've got friends as well who all said they actually expected that as soon as they saw the penalties go in. That was the state of play at that moment. That was the environment that was happening in. That racism was on the rise, both online and in the real world. That it was so much so that black colleagues of mine were saying, I expected that before the news came out the next day that the abuse had been sent to those players, those 3 players, that they'd expected it. And sadly that was the case. That is what happened. Hugely demoralising. I think what we want to kind of help showcase in that instance is the unity that we saw after it. There was obviously huge amounts of online racist abuse targeted towards those players, but an even larger amount of unity and solidarity shown to those players afterwards, which hopefully helped to reassure them in some way, shape or form. The mural, I think, was cleaned up either later that day or the next day by hundreds, even thousands coming along to help out. And that's the kind of country we want to live in. That's the kind of place, that anti-racist kind of country that society that we want to be a part of. And the only way we'll get to that fully is if we are united in condemning racism in all its forms. So if it starts with a subtle comment that you want to perceive as banter, if it's challenged there and then, that might make that person think twice about what they're saying and how it can impact people, so that then it's not left to, all right, I'll just say it directly, or I'll just say it online, I'll just escalate it till it's direct racial abuse of a footballer, for example. If you hear your friend, family, colleague say anything that's racially motivated, it's up to us now as a society. We've moved on now. It's up to us as a society to actually challenge it. It's not bystand. It's not, oh, at least I wouldn't say that. It's about actively being confident enough to challenge it in any way that you can, just to let the person know that that's not the society we live in anymore. And that's the kind of people can't be expected to do that on their own, especially in vulnerable people can't be expected to challenge a stand full of people shouting racist abuse at an England player. But if we can, as education organisations, as even individuals in a society, if we can help equip each other with the kind of confidence and the resources to be able to know how to safely challenge it, how to recognise it first of all, and how to safely challenge it, then hopefully we can start to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you mentioned players taking a knee after George Floyd. Obviously that's been perceived in different ways in different countries, and I know in Czech Republic, they don't. I think maybe in Poland as well, they don't seem to take the knee. They either don't believe in it, or they're just racist or whatever. I know at the Celtic Dundee game, I think the section of the Dundee fans were booing the players taking a knee. Certain clubs down in England are doing the same. Do you think that is? Do you think that's fans being racist by booing players taking a knee, or do you think it's maybe just they feel it's not doing enough? It's just, they're just doing it for show. What I mean is,
well, it's really difficult to say what the motivation is behind people booing, taking the knee, and I know it's still going on. Sadly, I think Marvin Bartley speaks really, really well on it, because he just spells it out as clear as day. If you are booing a gesture of anti-racism, then you are racist. And it's, for us, we're an education charity, so we always champion education as the cure for racism. So we remain optimistic that it could. I mean, this is a gesture that Black players have said, almost unanimously, we want to do this to call for change in the fight against racism, and their fellow players have backed him on that, again, almost unanimously. But there still is a gap in understanding of it, and I think it's down to us all to keep having those conversations and keep speaking to people about these issues, because they're societal issues. They affect every single one of us, and I think we obviously want to get to a stage where a gesture of anti-racism isn't booed or is kind of it's done in unity, rather than one team doing this, one team doing that. But if the conversations are happening, then potentially they're happening in places that they wouldn't have been happening otherwise. So we're seeing more conversations happening in the schools. We're seeing more conversations happening in workplaces. I mean, we've got businesses asking us for to hold workshops with staff that have never ever had us in before. And that can only be down to having these conversations. So we need to keep championing the positivity that can come from it. And as I say, Marvin speaks really, really well on it, and that him and I know other players are just open to their inboxes are open. They're always open to just speaking to people about it and the reasons why they do it. If anyone is in doubt, it's like, obviously go on YouTube, go on Google, search for these videos that not just Marvin, but players in England as well are talking about why we take the knee. I know Rio Ferdinand did one; it was really good. This is why we take the knee. Simple as that. So yeah, we can only hope for continued positivity and unity from it.
Yeah, and obviously, you mentioned in terms of society there. I mean, how tough a task do you think it is to destroy racism? Not just forgetting about racism in sport, because I know there's a lot with the whole Yorkshire racial scandal and things like that in cricket, and We've had it in football for years and years, but just in general, in society in general, obviously I think diversity came under a lot of criticism for their performance in Britain's Got Talent maybe last year, but that was obviously to get a message out. And I think John Lewis came under criticism just last week by releasing their ads. I think a lot of people went online on social media, and I think the term that was used was woke, which means basically, people are complaining that why is a black family getting featured on a Christmas ad. Personally, I don't really give a monkeys. I'm listening out for the song because they've always released a good song. It's always a really good story in the background to it. Do you know what I mean? So I don't really bother with it personally, but I have seen a lot of kick up about it and things like that. So I mean, what more needs to be done in terms of, is it just the same thing over and over again, just trying to hammer that message out?
Yeah, I mean, I think of course it's about trying to educate people that maybe, or trying to help people educate themselves that maybe haven't considered their own kind of worldviews before. But there's going to be people that don't want to be educated. You can't force education on them. Our workshops are all kind of voluntary. You take part if it's something you want to explore further, and that's why, kind of like I said, our engagement with footballers helps us kind of pull people in to having those conversations. But with the broader examples that you've said, I mean, there are going to be people that just don't want to be educated, and those people who don't want to be educated, don't want to consider the society that we now live in, are going to be left behind, sadly. And I think it's amazing when you're seeing real unity and real condemnation of any criticism that comes from a bloody John Lewis advert or diversity in Britain's Got Talent, because the majority of the country that we live in are like you. They don't care. It's not something that even crosses their mind what colour of the skin the cast is, or the message that they're trying to get across. It's about being one as a society, and there is many communities in society that are disadvantaged compared to other communities in society, and it's about recognising that. It's about sitting back and reflecting. If I'm sitting here and I'm offended by a TV advert because of the colour of their skin, I need to ask myself why. I need to find out more about what's going on in there in relation to the society I now live in. And if people want to do that, there are so many great resources out there, not just Show Racism the Red Card. There's so many things that you can watch, read, look into further about equipping yourself just with the confidence to discuss issues of equality. I think to give a really good example, actually, that was quite recent. Obviously, all the football clubs across Scotland took part in the month of action for Show Racism the Red Card, but the likes of Celtic kind of going that one step further. They provided, obviously, Christopher, Julian and players like that actually volunteered to be part of the video We're All In that we did. But the club themselves going one step further, and I think they put in their matchday programme an interview with Ange Postecoglou, and then an excerpt from Callum McGregor. And it wasn't just they weren't just talking about, diversity is great, it's important, anti-racism is important, racism is bad. This was a real in-depth interview about the strength that diversity brings to the dressing room at Celtic. Ange talking about, I'm reading it here, however, if we in football can help shine a light on racism, then that's what together we must do. We must challenge racism whenever we see it and say very clearly that enough is enough. And then Callum McGregor talking about how, again, the diversity being an absolute strength that enriches us all as individuals and wider communities in the changing room. So that, again, if you're someone that's thinking, I'm offended by a John Lewis advert, but have a read of that. That's a player and a manager going out their way to talk really strongly about the world that they want to live in. So that's, again, it goes back to positivity and how that can impact on our society.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly, that interview certainly didn't feel as if it was scripted, as if it was, they were really not off an autocue. It felt as if it was genuine, and obviously that's what I think. I think a lot of dressing rooms, we had Dundee United manager Tam Coates as well, go up to the opposing fans with I think it was Show Racism, the red card T-shirt, or it was an anti-racism T-shirt he was going up with. So, that was great to see as well, and more needs to be done. In terms of the educational chats, going back to them, something like you speak to over 50,000 people per year, which is incredible. In terms of, obviously, do you see I'm trying to think how to word it. Do you see how people respond to it? I mean, do you have people get in touch with you? Do you have young people get in touch with your older people, saying, maybe you've gave a chat in a school or an office and they've kind of came back to you and says that was brilliant. I really didn't understand it before until that chat kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a huge part of just how the team continue the work that they do. They rely on the feedback that we get that shapes the very next session that they do. And so we're always evolving, we're always taking on board people's own experiences out with the workshop, and then how they found the workshop and what bits we can improve and things like that. And so we're lucky that we get a really good mix of new schools and new organisations, but we also have a real core group of schools and businesses that want to keep us coming back each year, and working with our new pupils, working with our new staff, which is great. But I think 50,000 people per year, 50,000 young people per year. I think it's like maybe 6,000 adults per year, but that's growing. The team's growing, and we need to be working with more, because the more we can reach across the UK, then the more impact that we have. There was one relevant example in Scotland where we went into a school. Sadly, it was reactive rather than proactive. So the school had got in touch and said that there had been racist language being used, and that the teachers have tried and can only do so much, and that they just wanted some external help. So they got in touch with Show Racism, the red card, and I think there was a lot of pupils that were Hibs supporters as well. So we got in touch with Hibs and found out what we could do, and so we delivered a full programme for that entire year group that was experiencing issues and that had quite a number of victims of racial bullying, sadly. So we worked with them across the programme, and then at the end they got a surprise visit by Jack Ross and David Gray at the time, club captain, and that just, I mean, the room lit up, their eyes lit up, and it helped to. They had a kind of surprise Q&A, and they were asking a kind of mixture of questions, whether it was football, but mostly about what they'd learned throughout the day, about how to, asking Jack Ross, have you ever had a teammate that's experienced racism? How have you supported them? Things like that. And then we actually heard after I think it was like a week after the workshop, that one of the parents actually quite emotionally got in touch with us and said that her daughter had been racially abused for about 18 months at that school, and that following the workshop, one of the bullies wrote to her to apologise for that, and she obviously went into detail about what the young girl had to endure, but the confidence that she then got from that apology was tremendous, and she's moved school, but she's now so much more confident, and that's, it's something that it's just a small. If it's one life change, then the workshop with the whole school's done its job, and obviously I don't think it would have had the same impact if we didn't have that buy-in from the football club. Obviously, we'd still have delivered the content, but the local football club bringing having that presence there that day really did kind of rhyme home the message, and it's something that will hopefully stick with those young people, whether they were the victims of racism, or the perpetrators as well. Hopefully that message will resonate with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing thing to do. Obviously, the fact that obviously that happened in the school, and then you were able to get in touch with Hibs, and Hibs were able to send representatives to, and it all came together and we had a kind of positive outcome. That was really, really good. Just obviously, we're touching it. What kids go through and what they learn, and from such a young age, I suppose that racism is the furthest from their mind. They don't know what it is because they'll grow up through primary school with black friends or whatever, and they just play together and they don't really care. Do you know what I mean? So, do you think it would then emanate from the parents or the grandparents in terms of maybe no things that the parents are learning them or teaching them about it, but in terms of just things they're hearing about the house, maybe things that their dad's shouting at the telly or their granddad's shouting at the telly or mum's shouting at the telly. Do you think it can have an effect on kids, and that's maybe why kids are kind of picking it up?
Yeah, it's a generational issue. It's been passed down the generations. That's certainly the feedback we get, and not just that. I think me and you could both kind of speak to that as well, possibly. It's the generational issue. Not just that as well. I think social media is a problem as well. Social media now is where the majority of young people consume their information from. So if that is a safe platform that is fact-based and is, it doesn't contain any harmful language, then that's great. But it's sadly not the case. Social media is unregulated, and it contains widely available use of racist slurs, racist terminology. And that's where young people are also learning about discriminatory language and seeing it normalised as well. There's obviously no substitute for obviously hearing it from parents and grandparents and stuff. If it's heard in the house, then it's normalised, and that's what a young person would then treat as normal. Sadly, and that needs to be unlearned rather than learned. Again, that coupled with social media, we do have an uphill battle against this, and we need these multi-billion-pound social media companies to take a bit of ownership, and they've got the technology there to get rid of these words, to capture these words the moment they're typed, and make sure that they're not seen. But sadly, they are, and so it's down to education, it's down to teachers, it's down to education charities. And it's down to all of us to actually help the young people unlearn what they're learning, so that hopefully in the future this isn't a conversation they need to be having, but it's definitely an uphill challenge.
Yeah, I mean, Agnes McCormack, welcome to the page. She says, I think it comes from your upbringing. Obviously, we're talking about that. And when you look at it as well, I didn't grow up with social media. Social media came into my life a bit later in life. I'm showing my age here. But it's like, but that's the thing. It's like, I think I went on last season about a lot of Celtic fans that were given players like Ryan Christie stick, and who else? Like just players that weren't playing well. Obviously nothing to do with racism, but just keyboard cowards, as I said before. And it's the same with black players when they get racial abuse online. I think that's what they are. They're keyboard cowards, and I've went on record before in calling them out for it. So as I say, it needs to be, as you say, it needs to be unlearned from the household, from the younger to the older kind of thing. So just like finally to touch on, I suppose, just personal opinions, what can we do as a nation to eradicate it? And also, do you think we can show racism the red cards as a nation?
That's a great question. It'd be great if we could answer it by the end of this podcast, but I don't think, being part of a charity now that's 25 years it's in its 25th anniversary, you're able to look back and see what the difference has been made over time. And I can even go quite, thinking back to 25 years when that happened with Shaka. The other co-founder, Jed Grebe, he's still the CEO, he was going to games and it was monkey chants, it was banana skins getting thrown, it was that was the state of playing stadiums just 25 years ago, in living memory, very much so. And now you can see even recent change. I know my colleagues in Wales have been very successful in that they've lobbied the Welsh government to embed anti-racist education into the curriculum, and Wales are being quite ambitious by saying they want to be an anti-racist nation by 2030. Same kind of way we're talking about like climate action, setting deadlines and things, and they're actually treating anti-racism they're treating racism with the same sort of yardstick, which it's really positive to see, and obviously hoping that the action plan is as good as the title. But Scotland can do far more. Scotland is a kind of a country that likes to talk itself up as being almost post-racial, almost, we don't have a problem in Scotland. That's maybe England's problem. And similarly, there'll be people in England that will say, it's not our problem, that's maybe America's problem. So Scotland needs to look at itself. I think our leaders need to look at themselves and rather than talk a good game, actually put real action points into these discussions, because the movement at the moment is as strong as it's ever been. The anti-racism movement, the Black Lives Matter movement is as strong as it's ever been, as strong as it's been in all of our lifetimes. And that there's the onus is on governments to actually harness that positivity, to turn it into positive action, so that the next generation don't have to be having these conversations, don't have to be strategizing over what needs to be on the curriculum, what needs to be taken out of the curriculum, what's the length of ban that you would give a racist. It shouldn't be conversations that we should be having. It should be racism isn't accepted, you are racist. It's a true zero tolerance approach. So lifetime bans. So there's no reason to protect people hopefully in the future that exhibit racist behaviour. And like I said before, people with these views that aren't that isn't due to a lack of education, it's due to just sheer ignorance. I am a racist. These people will be left behind, and they're slowly and surely being left behind. And the more we can use positive role models, footballing role models, high profile celebrities, even if you like, politicians, all these partners coming together to condemn racist abuse, condemn racism in all its forms, and actually champion the positivity that's happening, the amazing work that is being put in place, and putting the focus on our young people as well, who are going to be our future society, equipping them with the tools to be able to challenge it, and hopefully then we can start to think about a post-racial society. But sadly the stats don't add up just now. We do have a problem, and first and foremost we just need our leaders to acknowledge it.
Yeah, and so for anybody that maybe has been listening to this interview and wants to get involved somehow, whether it's volunteering, is there anything at your offices or any of the offices that they can get involved in and start to help out, kind of thing?
There's loads that can be done, so absolutely we'd welcome anyone that's willing to let us know how they can volunteer for the charity. The website www.theredcard.org, and follow that through to Scotland, or find the submission form, leave your details and things, and one of our team will be in touch, because there is so much to do, and we're always looking for ideas. We're always looking for even just help with events and help with initiatives that we're doing. So any kind of skill set as well. We're definitely looking to grow the charity, and I know that's the same for other anti-racist organisations and equalities organisations as well. So anyone that's looking to get involved in the equalities sector, if you like, I would say definitely look to volunteer if you can. and that would be a great help.
Yeah. So as I say, Jordan, I'll let you go at the moment, but thanks for coming on and doing the interview. It's really been enlightening, I think, for myself and everybody that's been watching.
No, thank you very much for having me.
And as I say, so we'll be back after the international break, guys. For anybody that listens to the podcast regularly, if you want to download any of the podcast episodes, get on to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. Just search Celtic FC Appreciation. Remember, and like our page as well, over 15,000 when you take it going. We're going to have some merch coming out in the new year. And talks about that, and also our sponsor for the podcast and the page, 67 Tees, Tim Alloy Apparel. Check them out on the socials, and obviously the YouTube channel. If you can get it, subscribing to that. We want to get the subscribers up on that, and any comments or reviews on the daily content. And obviously, as Jordan says, you can get involved at theredcard.org. Just get on there and have a look at what the guys are doing. Great work that they're doing. So, as I say, we'll be back. Me and Paul will be back after the international break. I think will be on the Sunday, Sunday 21st of November. But until then, guys, all the best.